Hi grade 11, this is the presentation video on the reflections and the RPPF. You are about to be writing your first reflection, or you may be coming back to this for some advice on your second or your third one. The video is just going to go through over the presentation. You've got access to this through the Extended Essay website, but also on Google Classroom. We're going to look at first what are the reflections, what is the criteria, what do we mean by student voice, some simple kind of do's and don'ts, the interview process as well with the supervisor, how we can complete this on ManageBack for the official form, the RPPF, and also looking at some example RPPFs. All right, so let's start then with what are reflections. In the extended essay, you have to write 4,000 words, and it's very formal. Now, on top of that, we also have to write 3 reflections. In total, this is 500 words. So it's not 500 for each reflection, it's 500 for all 3 together. This is what the examiner will read, and it's what they use to grade you for engagement, which is criterion E. It's a total of 6 marks, which is about 18% of your final grade. So it's something that can really help boost our grades, but also it can also take away from us as well. So we also want to put a good amount of effort into this. The reflections have to be written by you, and that's really important. It needs to sound like you, it needs to be from you. And we also have to make sure they're submitted in the correct way, and I'm going to show you how we do this in ManageBack. Please also make sure that you don't write your reflections whenever, you stick to the deadlines that we give you, and they should be done very soon after the reflection interview with your supervisor. So the first thing is the criteria. We have 3 different bands here. Engagement is limited, engagement is good, and engagement is excellent. And really there's kind of 2 strands for this. I'll let you read this in your own time on the presentation, but we've got engagement with the process and engagement with the research focus. One of the things here that I wanted to pick out is it says here, the reflections communicate to a high degree of intellectual and personal engagement with the research focus and process of research, demonstrating authenticity, intellectual initiative and creative approach in the student voice. And that student voice is something that's been flagged up many times, so we're going to have a look at that as well. So this here is some advice for you. One would be, have you demonstrated your engagement with the research topic and research process? So have you told the examiner why you really wanted to come up with this topic? What led you to develop it? What led you to develop that research question? How did the research go? Has it been going really well? Have you found some troubles in there? Has it maybe altered your research question? When we talk about challenges or difficulties we faced, that's actually a really good thing for us to have, because we can talk about how did we overcome them? Why were they difficult for us? How did we have to adapt from it? What did you learn about yourself in that process? Again, the next one being, will they get a sense of your intellectual and skills development? So you also want to talk about maybe if something was academically quite challenging, or maybe you developed a new skill beyond the course. Again, we want to put those in there. And again, looking at creativity and intellectual initiative. How are you showing that this is your work, that you came up with these methods, that you have done your analysis? Okay, how are you proving to that you were personally engaged through this whole process? The other thing that they sometimes are looking for is also to see how you responded to some actions or ideas. You might talk about that you had a discussion with a supervisor and they gave you some advice, and how did you respond to that advice? You're allowed to talk about that as well. So there's a few things there just for some tips to think about when writing your reflections. The next bit then is all about the student voice. When we're talking about student voice, essentially what we mean is it needs to sound like you. This is the only time that your examiner is going to be able to hear you for you, not in formal language like you will write in the essay. Remember, essays are in third person, they should be sounding academic. The reflection can sound like you. You can use I. You can put some personal anecdotes in there. It shouldn't sound robotic. It also shouldn't sound like you've written this with a supervisor, so you need to be writing this on your own. Like I said, your supervisor will do an interview with you, but they should not be writing this, and you should not be asking them to. Okay? Essentially, you want to show off to the examiner. You want to be showing off to them, this is how engaged I was, this is how much time I've put in, this is how much effort I've put in. And some advice for this would be, make sure you write down any little reflections or little anecdotes or little thoughts that you have going along. Please also just be really honest. Don't just be super positive. If you have found some things difficult, if you know that you were procrastinating for a while, you say that. Okay, and then you say about what did you learn about yourself? How did you overcome that? The other thing I would say is have a read through the end of the presentation or have a read through the ones on the website. You can hear the ones that you can hear the student voice in. Have a little look through which are the ones that you think you can hear the student. When you read it, it should sound like you. Okay, next one is all about the do's and don'ts. So in this case, you want to be making sure you write it in first person. We're not using we or the author said. We're not going to be that formal. We're going to say I. You want to make sure you are reflective rather than descriptive. In this case, not things like I worked well in the extended essay. I got better at time management. Why did you work well? Why do you think it was a success? How did you improve your time management? Why do you think you got better at it? Give them some reasons. Don't leave them with more questions. Please also make sure you don't use teacher names or the school names. You shouldn't be using identifying terms. Again, I've had students before, we've seen students before that have written lists. Again, you can't write lists. You need to be writing a paragraph. It needs to be describing. Okay? And also, don't just summarize a meeting with a supervisor or, a to-do list of what they've given you. It's a reflection. It's not a meeting minute. Remember, talk about your growth, but also talk about your challenges, how you overcame them, but also, how difficult they were. What did you learn in the process? Try and give some examples. Be personal. Okay, if you've got very specific reasons for wanting to do this extended essay, or if you found that there was a big challenge in the middle of it and something that you had to really overcome to do this, put that in there. Again, they wanting to hear you, they wanted to see you and your engagement. The last one, which is really important, is also get some feedback from your supervisor. They are allowed to read your reflection. Some supervisors like to do it as they go along. Some supervisors like to leave it right to the end and do all three together. That's up to them which way they do it, but they should be giving you some feedback. And if they don't, you can ask for it. Again, we'll talk about how you sort of submit those in a moment. So, you are going to have an interview. Usually your interview should be about 15 to 20 minutes for reflection 1 and reflection 2. But also for the third and the final reflection, the viva voce, it tends to be a little bit more longer. It tends to be a little bit more in depth, and you're reflecting upon your whole final extended essay. On the extended essay website, I'm just going to jump out for this for a second. We have got information on writing the reflections. We've also got some very specific information for each of the 3 reflections there for you. Your interview should be taking place with your supervisor. You need to contact them. They have been told that you will be emailing them to set up an interview, but the onus is on you. You have to be the one chasing them to do this. Once you've done your interview, or when you're doing your interview, it's a good opportunity for you to take some notes, or you could even ask your supervisor if you could record it, because sometimes it's nice to listen back to some of the ideas you've been saying. Again, you need to get permission if you are going to do that. But it's a good opportunity for you to sort of listen to the questions they're asking, because the questions they ask you are going to help you guide writing your reflection. And I would say you want to write it then within the next couple of days after your interview, just so it's fresh in your mind and you're not waiting a long time to then complete it. When you are writing your reflection, we need it to go through ManageBack. Okay, we will download all your RPPFs through ManageBack. So when you open up ManageBack and go to the extended essay, you'll see that we usually open on the worksheet. You need to move across to the 4th tab, so not the researcher's reflection space, not assessment, but something called the planning and progress form. It's a little confusing because it doesn't have the word reflection in there. Okay, but this is the one you need. Planning and progress form, RPPF. Okay, you are going to write your reflections in here. You might want to write them on a document first, and that's okay, but you need to submit them on here. So the first reflection session, you're going to put in this one, the interim here, and the final one there. Once you're done, they will automatically lock. Okay, that's again something that you can't control. It will automatically lock. So if you write a sentence in and then leave it and come back to it later, you're not going to be able to edit that again. Your supervisor or myself, we can unlock this for you. But again, you shouldn't be bothering us with this. This should be something that you put this in when you are ready and you've got your first reflection written. Again, remember, it's different for your different journeys, but this one should be about 1,400, 1,700. Same for this one. The last one's usually a bit longer at 200. You might find that there's a lot happened in the interim, and this could be a bit longer, and maybe the final one ends up being a bit shorter. You might find that the first reflection is kind of a little bit short, maybe at 100 words. This is just a general guideline for you to stick to. But like I said, it does depend upon your journey. Okay, so the last bit is the example RPPFs. I'm not going to go through them on here. I'm going to let you look at this in your own time. But over the next few slides, we've got some example written RPPFs here. On the last slide, we've got the grades that they have as well. So you can see the examiner grades. What you might want to do though, is you might want to click and look at your specific topic. So if we click on this, if you're writing yours in English, we can click on that and it's going to take us to the website. It's taking a little bit of time. I'm going to open up one I already have here. So this one is for geography, and I can see an RPPF example here for geography. Again, I can scroll through and look at this. And if I want to see a bit more detail on that, I can see, if I scroll down, I can see that this scored 4 out of 6. And the examiner has also written a little bit of information there. Again, you might not be studying geography. Let's say you were doing biology. You could click to biology. And you've got some different examples here. You could click on example C. And again, we can scroll down and we can see that this person got 5 out of 6. Again, if we want to see the RPPF, we go to the top. We can click RPPF and download it. Some of you aren't writing your extended essays in English. Some of you are doing it in German or French or Spanish. Or if it could be a mother tongue. Again, we're going to click then onto this one. For example, if we want to see Spanish, you want to click this link. It takes us to the Spanish version of the IB website. And you will see that if you're writing those in a different language, your RPPF also needs to be in that same language. Again, we can see here, this one is in Spanish. It's been written in Spanish. If we go back, we can see that this one scored, I think this was 6 out of 6. And again, we can see the examiner comments here as well. If you have any questions or you're not sure where to find something or you can't find yours for your subject, please come and ask me and we can help. Okay, any questions, please drop me an email or pop up to the science office. Again, all this information is on the Extended Essay website. We've got examples as well of how to get the RPPFs here. I'll also add all this to Core Classroom. All right, thanks for listening, guys, and take care.